I'm Bill Koch, and I'm the president and dean of the Nashville School of Law. And I'm very fortunate today to have 4 of our second-year law students here, and we're going to have a conversation about how they got here, what it's been like for their first 2 years, what they think can be improved, and what they think they like and would like to have more of. And Kenneth, why don't we start with you? Why don't we introduce yourself and tell us how you got here?
Well, my name is Kenneth Gallion, and I am from Sevierville, Tennessee. So out east where Dolly Parton's from, and Gatlinburg, the Smoky Mountains. And I originally transferred from another ABA school, and I don't know, I just thought that Nashville School of Law sounded really appealing. I have several friends that graduated from here, and I thought it was time for a change.
Great.
My name is Jasmine Patton. I am a Nashville native. I always wanted to be a lawyer. However, the Socratic method scared me. I was terrified. So I settled in banking, and I thought that I would be there forever. However, I ran into an attorney named Wes Hall. Upon our second interaction, he asked me to come and work for his law firm. And from there, he has encouraged me every step of the way. And he is an NSL graduate, and so that's how I ended up here.
My name is Felix Abrahamian. I'm actually from a few different places. Came here from New York to Tennessee, but I have lived in multiple different states, to include California, Pennsylvania, all after I immigrated here to the U.S. with my mother. I have a background in law enforcement, and while I was working as an officer, I found that I liked the law aspect of my career more than I did other aspects of being a police officer. And when I was talking to her actually about what I was going to do in the future, I knew I didn't want to stay in the career until I retired. I wanted to do something to advance myself a little bit, and she currently is an immigration attorney. So I found Nashville School of Law, and I was like, this will be a great opportunity for me to come work with you, help other people that come to the country, and help them remain and stay here. So I thought it was a great idea to apply here. So
Great.
My name is Casey Ray. I'm originally from West Virginia. I got my master's in human resources in West Virginia at Marshall University. My favorite classes in grad school were my employment and labor law classes, so I've always kind of had a passion for those areas. I work in compliance now. I'm a compliance auditor, working with companies to make sure that they are meeting regulatory and legal needs. And so I've always had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to go to law school. And then during COVID, actually, I started really regretting it and just kind of recognizing, life is short. It's time to really pursue your dreams. And so I started talking to people that I worked with, and a lot of people recommended NSL. And I spoke to some people who were current students as well as people who were graduates of NSL, and everybody encouraged me to come, so I did.
Well, it's great. Well, we are certainly glad you're here, and you've now lost your amateur standing. You've all survived the first year, and you actually mentioned the Socratic method, which is actually controversial in legal education today, and there's a little bit of that going on here. But how would you characterize how you think the professors are helping you learn material you need to learn?
I think that they are preparing us. Once you do it, it's not as bad as it seems. And then it also helps to realize that everyone else in the class is feeling the exact same thing that you're feeling, and we are all going to have our turn. During my 1L year, I think I was cold called 4 or 5 times, and I'm not a pro, but it's definitely, I'm more comfortable now, and it doesn't bother me at all.
Well, it's part of that experience helps you get comfortable. The more often you do something, the less intimidating, I guess it gets. After your first year, you figured you had it nailed down. What would you say the major difference was between year 1 and year 2?
I think year 2, the material is definitely a lot denser. There's a lot more of it in the same amount of time. I think with year 1, you do get a little bit of a break between your legal writing classes and the shift between crimes and criminal procedure. But the amount of information is definitely a lot more in the same amount of time. But I think the fact that the classes are remain the 4 classes that you have does make it a little easier to predict what you're going to get. So you have all of your main classes, the 4 classes, are going to be consistent and continuous throughout the year, which does give it a little bit more predictability, I think, whereas year 1, you did bounce around a lot more.
Well, and the way Nashville School of Law works, each class is in together essentially for 4 years, so you get to know folks. How have you found the dynamics in the class? Are everybody get along? You know, some students say, I didn't want to go to law school because I was worried it was going to be too competitive, the people weren't going to be helpful. How have you found your relationship with the members of your class?
I think that that's probably the thing that surprised me the most about NSL was our class, and I don't know if this is unique to our class, but we are incredibly supportive. The amount of times that somebody has said, hey, you know, I'm really struggling with this concept, and 10 or 15 people have been like, I can send you my notes, or let's get together and talk about it. Everybody really recognizes that we are not in competition, and at the end of this, we're all going to be colleagues in our legal careers, and that we just need to help each other out and be there for each other. And it's honestly very inspiring and helpful when you're feeling kind of stressed about school, that everybody has your back and is rooting for you.
So your experience has been that everybody plays nicely, pretty well with everybody else.
Absolutely.
Of course, we all have better days, some days, and bad days.
That's true.
I guess one of the things that's always fascinating to me is that different classes take on different personalities, and some of that's a reflection of how they get along. And you know, has that been your experience too? What would you say the personality of your class is right now?
Right now, I think everybody has definitely came together more. I don't want to compare law school to something as serious as war, but you are together in the trenches. I mean, that's what it is. It's an experience that only you will know with your classmates, and everybody is every day struggling with you. And if there's a day that you're slacking in something, like Casey said, there's 10 to 15 people to be there to pick you up.
What's your reaction to the teaching method we use? I've kind of asked you that before, but do you think it's helpful to brief cases and recite? Would you rather just have a discussion or dialogue in class? Would you like to see maybe the class broken up into smaller groups and talk about things and then report back? I mean, what kind of environment helps you learn best?
I think briefing the cases together really helps to break down the material. When we're studying alone, it's all new, and so we don't have that deep understanding, but once we talk about it in class and, you know, someone briefs the cases and we apply it to real life situations, it all comes together and makes much more sense.
You know, there's different people learn in different ways, so, you know, what might work for me might not work for you, and what works for you may not work for me. But one thing I wonder about is, you all have mentioned it's hard work. You know, but there's some academic disciplines, and I'm going to call one out at the risk of showing my shortcomings, organic chemistry. I mean, I could study that for the rest of my life. I wouldn't get it. So there's some subjects that are just dense and hard. Mm-hmm. And then there's law. Do you think law is dense and hard, or is it something that if you work at it, you get it?
I think that it's definitely specific to the type of law. There are a couple classes we're taking where I think it is a little like organic chemistry for me. But I definitely think that it's the type of thing that when you really think through it and think through it logically and apply it, like Jasmine said, to real life, it is something that just kind of clicks, and then it is easier to work through and understand.
I'm not going to ask you if you've been studying rule against perpetuities and property law. That's the closest thing to me to organic chemistry.
Absolutely.
And if you can imagine,
Agreed.
when I went to school, we spent 2 months on the rule against perpetuity. Talking about torture. I'm sorry, my property professor's in heaven, I'm sorry. But that's the way it was. If you could wave your magic wand and have something different here that we don't have now, or we could do differently, what would you like to see approached in a little different way?
Honestly, I truly just love how NSL is by itself. I think it's maybe the experience from coming from somewhere else And so I was able to see the differences between one school and the other. And I think NSL really is, they're doing it right. I mean, you have plenty of resources for us in the library. We have, Westlaw, Lexis, and the professors are always willing to talk and help. And even in class, if you don't get it, if you ask a question, they don't make you feel bad about it. They're like, I bet 5 other people were wondering that too. And they just continuously help, and the classmates are great here as well. I mean, I really can't say one bad thing about it. I can't ask for more.
Many of our students, in many other law schools, let me put it that way, students are coming right out of college and going to law school. So there's kind of an experience deficit in between. Our students, for the most part, have actually lived some lives. They've done some things differently. They've all come in from different pursuits. Has that, do you think, helped set the tone of how you study? I mean, the people are just different. They've lived differently. They've had to work to get along with folks. You think that that's helped maybe with the cohesion in the class?
Absolutely. I think having such a diverse background has also helped. Like Casey said, it's not competitive. We realize we're all different. We all come from different backgrounds, and we can bring different things to our class. And so I think that is really what helps us versus coming straight from undergrad and, everyone's fighting for this #1 spot.
And there's a pressure. All of you want to succeed, and you want to be successful. And so we have many type A personalities here at the school. We all manage it pretty well. But there's that pressure sometimes between performing and learning. And how do you balance that?
I think for me personally, what actually has really helped is I like to organize myself, and organization is key, I think, in that aspect. Organization in terms of your study material, in terms of your notes. And honestly, even just taking a day in the week and just turning the brain off and not thinking about school can do wonders. It's incredible how you feel the next day after you've just taken a pause, reset yourself, and then continue doing what you were doing the next day, because you really need that mental break because of how much pressure.
I got to ask you, what day is that?
It jumps around between Friday or Saturday. It just depends on the week. Sometimes on Friday will be the day that I'm like, I'm going to do my constitutional law homework this day. I'm going to get it all done, get all the materials, get everything organized. Or if I just had too long of a work day on Friday, Saturday will be the day for me, and then usually review my materials on Sundays, how I personally do it. But some sort of schedule like that, I think is beneficial for really keeping yourself organized and being successful.
So some knowledge on how you perform best kind of informs of how you're going to approach the different balls you're juggling. Do you need to have a cleansing day, or how do you reset?
I definitely do have a day where maybe not a whole day, but I carve out time where I do something that is a thing that brings me joy, where I can just take my mind off of things, to just kind of reset and get myself back into it.
Well, now you moved from the auditorium into a different classroom, so, but the seats are about the same, and I've got to ask, are you sitting in the same place you sat in the second year you sat in the first year, or did you change seats?
So my first year, I sat to the side of the podium up front so I could hear and see everything they were doing. And this year, I definitely snagged a front row seat. I want to make sure I can hear everything that's going on.
You're the exception rather than the rule. I was the backseat boy when I was in school. It's fascinating to me, and again, I think we're all becoming, in the class, we're all working together, and we become familiar. So somebody I know who's going to sit on the right and who's going to sit on the left, and there's just comfort in that. But there's nothing wrong with a little change every once in a while.
Yeah.
Too. If you had one piece of advice to give to first-year students that are getting ready next year to be second-year students, what would you tell them?
Do not procrastinate. The material can pile up really quickly if you do not stay on top of it. During my first year, I hardly took breaks, and I think it's okay to have like a reset day. And I said in my first year, every Friday, you know, I'm taking off. That never ever happened. So just be prepared to sacrifice and don't procrastinate.
And you all at least have a limited ability to manage your workload, because after the end of this year, you'll have electives you can take during the summer and reduce that. What's your thought about that? Are you going to take advantage of that, or?
Yes, I think it's important to try and get as much done on the front end so that you can make your year, as in taking electives in the summer, which I didn't do this summer, but I'm absolutely going to do it this upcoming summer. Taking electives on the front end, lower your workload. I think it'll just make the both third and fourth year a lot easier and much more manageable without having to think about additional classes that you could have already have taken.
Are there any dissenting opinions about electives in the summer? Some are just not going to do it?
We all
No.
agree,
No, but I do
think.
want to add, I took a summer class and I really enjoyed it. I thought the material flowed well. I didn't think it was crazy, fast-paced like I thought it was going to be, and I wish I took 2 instead of 1.
Yeah.
Well, you can do that next summer.
Yeah.
I'd add to the electives in the summer, a benefit that I see is that it keeps you in study mode. And even taking a couple weeks off between the elective and the end of the 1L year, I felt like I lost all of my routine, and so taking the summer classes helps you kind of stay in that routine and keep your pace so that it's not such a shock when you come back to 2L.
Well, one more question. We've been talking a lot about classroom work, but we have internships and externships and practice courses. Is that something you all are thinking about doing? Doing what real lawyers do rather than necessarily a scholastic environment? What do you think about that mix? You want to do that?
I would like to do that, and now that I have finally moved from Sevier County to the area, I moved to Gallatin, and I'm not driving 3.5 hours one way. I think it would be great to be able to get involved with some type of workmanship with somebody and continue to learn what it's like in practice instead of just in a classroom.
Especially for women, that when we have 3 women with us today, it's important to be able to envision yourself and what you're going to look like as a lawyer,
Yeah.
not just as a law student. So that's why we think it's important to give you all the chance to do that to the extent you can fit it into your schedule. Well, we are very fortunate to have you at the school, and we are proud of each of you. I think one of the reasons why many of us on the staff are here or teaching is that you really are our successes. Because when you walk across the stage and get a diploma, you did the work, but we can say we had a piece of that. So we have a little bit of dog in the fight too when you're doing it. And thank you for spending a few minutes out of your valuable study time before your Thursday night classes talking to us. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.